Howdy folks, Jabberiki here. Small Soldiers was a film that I was completely obsessed with as a kid. I had the toys, I played the games, I watched the film over and over again, but it's been more than 2 decades since I saw it. So now I have to ask myself, how well does it hold up? When military technology firm Globotech buys out a toy company, they ask their new toy-making staff to come up with ideas, with emphasis on toys that will fight each other once face to face. The designers come up with the peaceful Gorgonites and the war-hungry Commandos. The designer of the Commandos ends up putting a highly controversial artificial intelligence chip into the Commandos and Gorgonites toys, which could spell trouble. A boy called Alan ends up taking some of these new toys into stock for his father's failing old-fashioned toy store before they've even been officially released anywhere else. But Alan soon learns that these are no ordinary toys. The Commandos are determined to seek and destroy the Gorgonites, while the Gorgonites just want to hide in safety. Alan teams up with his neighbour Christy, who he has a crush on, to take on these killer toys and protect the Gorgonites from harm. I have found Small Soldiers to be a very confused movie. It's not 100% confident about who it was made for or what stance it wants to make. Joe Dante apparently wants to make an edgy, dark satire for teenagers and adults, but a tie-in deal with Burger King forced the film to pander more to kids. The finished film has no idea what it's going for. It condemns military-inspired toys for kids.
These guys are the enemy, and our guys have to seek them out and vaporize them.
Well, no, they're not. Sir, don't you think that's a bit violent?
Exactly. So don't call it violence. Call it action. Kids love action.
But when it was released, it had tie-in action figures for the Commando characters for sale. Pretty contradictory of the film. The movie also thinks that educational toys are a better alternative to toys like the Commandos.
They have to find out as much stuff about our world as possible, and this way the kids can learn and do research and
Excuse me, did you say learn?
Learn, yeah?
Next.
Yet the film never actually explores the psychological or long-term effects of children playing with army dolls. Besides a scene of Archer quickly researching on a computer and Alan giving Archer a very, very rough lesson on wind science, the film doesn't really explore the benefits of educational toys. It also wants the audience to side with the Gorgonites because they desire to live in peace and oppose violence, but when push comes to shove, the Gorgonites force themselves to join the fight anyway. Which sure shows that they've become stronger and that fighting is sometimes necessary, but this also takes away what we were supposed to admire about the Gorgonites, especially when the Gorgonites seem to be having just as much fun as the Commandos on the battlefield. I mean, weren't the Gorgonites supposed to be the better alternative to the Commandos for kids' toys? Symbols for peaceful play and educational growth? The movie also tries to make a point that people care more about technologically advanced toys than old-fashioned handcrafted ones.
Look at those toys. Come on, Grandma. This place never has anything good.
While asking audiences to feel sorry for how Alan's dad's outdated toy store isn't getting sales.
So what's the seminar your dad's going to?
How to make a success of your small business.
Yet, the film never creates a strong case for why kids today should start appreciating toys from past generations. It makes the film come across like a grouchy old man who's mad at kids today and the changing times. Not to mention, when Christie's Gwenty dolls are brought to life thanks to the chips, she takes cathartic pleasure from having to destroy them all because she openly hates them.
I always hate these things.
Then why does Christy have so many Gwendy dolls? Why didn't she give them all away? And if the film wants kids to appreciate old-fashioned simple toys more like the Gwendy dolls, why have a character getting satisfaction from having to smash up her dolls? It doesn't exactly support the film's sentiments. Most of the messages that Small Soldiers intends to get across are either hypocritical, contradictory, or largely forgotten. Anything it protests against or satirizes is immediately undone by a sudden support of whatever it previously condemned, or a lack of interest in whatever it originally brought up. There's definitely a clash of intentions behind this film, and any kind of substance is diluted by the emphasis on toys fighting each other. And I think that's another detriment detriment to the movie. It's so invested in the novelty of violent toys that it lets that aspect take over, and the movie's runtime is dominated by an onslaught of explosions, toys being destroyed, and humans running around in a panic. You could argue that this helps the film's anti-war message, because it shows how war can be long-winded and unnecessary, but these battle sequences aren't framed as tragically pointless or horrifyingly never-ending, but rather comedic and entertaining, like the audience wants more. Except, it's not exactly funny or thrilling seeing the commandos relentlessly keeping a program war going, with the only joke being action figures acting violent and the humans responding with disbelief. A big part of the film's marketing was pitting Chip Hazard against Archer, but these two characters don't exactly have any kind of unique relationship. They spend most of the film apart from one another and only face each other in combat right at the very end of the film. So if you wanted to watch this film for the fight between Chip and Archer, you would be bored senseless waiting for it to actually happen. The romance between Alan and Christy has chemistry as they share common interests, but the fact that Christy has a boyfriend already and is willing to flirt with another boy while dating him is a red flag that Christy may not be good at being loyal to her partners. Heck, if you want to follow this romance just to cheer Alan on, wanting him to be with Christy, there's not much tension or any obstacles, because Christy doesn't seem that interested in her boyfriend Brad, making things pretty easy for Alan. Most of the toys themselves are very one-note characters. They don't have much to them beyond the simple motives they were programmed to have, all frequently spouting one-liners like someone keeps pressing their interactive buttons.
What a dump!
Celiac.
Okay, hey, what are you, a kid or an oil painting? No, seriously, folks. They got me sharing a dressing room with rotting fruit.
Don't worry, Archer. We was hiding. Slam fist.
If you asked me to tell apart the Commandos, I'd struggle, because they're all the same character. Hyper macho, hormonal, and trigger happy, with Chip Hazard being the stereotypical army major, shouting all his lines with serious authority.
Eternal vigilance is the price of duty. And to the victors go the spoils. So remember, you are the best, of the few, and the proud.
Although, despite that, they do bring a lot of charismatic energy to the film with their love of combat and relentless determination for victory. There's a camaraderie between the Commandos too that I did find slightly endearing, especially when one soldier dies, causing the others to grieve, and even Chip sheds a tear. The Gorgonites are a varied bunch of weirdos with strongly distinctive designs to help them stand apart. I do love the creativity behind the look of these monsters and can see why kids would adore them. Archer is the most rounded of all the toys in the film, and that's because we get some surprisingly quiet moments with him and Alan, showing that Archer is a contemplative and composed leader with a zen-like mind.
The wind's blowing. You can feel it.
Feel?
Oh, right, plastic. Sorry. It's kind of hard to describe. Weather patterns, wind chill factor. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
I've also always loved the idea of the Gorgonites trying to find Gorgon too, even though Alan knows that it's a made-up place. Their optimism is very charming, and it makes me wish that they could find an island that resembles their home one day.
That's the highway.
And beyond that?
About 1 million acres of farm.
And what's beyond that?
I don't know.
Gorgon.
Before I talk about anything else, I should point out that this was the last film that the late Phil Hartman ever starred in. And while he could have had a better swan song, I do feel as if the film does show him at his best. He was always great at playing smarmy characters with fake smiles. He brings a self-aware comedy to the film, and he is maybe the only part of the film that adults will find funny.
This guy says the tree's gotta go. You don't mind, do you?
Yes, I mind.
What?
I said, yes, I mind. What the hell are you doing, Phil? This is my tree.
Don't worry, happy to do the work. What are good neighbors for? You see the dish? She's a beauty, huh?
Rest in peace, Phil. I still miss you. Anyway, let's talk about the special effects for the toys. The film used two different kinds of special effects for the toys: puppetry from Stan Winston and computer effects created by Industrial Light and Magic. The puppetry helps to make the toys look tangible and believable. When we see these puppets, we buy that they are real toys with artificial intelligence, while the CGI helps the toys to achieve movement and expressions that the limited puppetry can't. However, while both special effects techniques have their place in the film, and I can't imagine any other way that the film could have animated the toys at the time it was made, it can be distracting how noticeable the transition is. The CGI characters do try to move like real toys, and the primitive rendering adds a plastic feel to them. But it's just not the same as the puppetry. I can always tell when the characters are suddenly being computer animated. And I think this is because the CGI toys are far more lively and expressive. Small Soldiers is a very confused and clunky film, uncertain what it's supposed to be or which audience it intends to aim towards. As an adult satire on the toy industry's relationship with the military, it's hypocritical and shallow. And as a family action blockbuster, it's just way too long. Even when you think it's over, it just keeps going. Plus, it's quite mean-spirited and dark for a family film. Some parents might feel that it's too violent and weirdly sexual for something that's supposed to be family-friendly. The film has so much untapped potential as a piece of social critique, opening up some important questions about the kinds of action figures we make for kids. But its complex themes are ignored in favor of indulging in the gimmick of killer toys attacking people. However, the movie's special effects were awesome for the time, really great. Plus, there are moments of humanity from the toys that may touch audiences. I do get why I enjoyed it as a kid. Archer is a charming role model for young audiences, Chip Hazard is a larger-than-life villain, and I'm certain children will enjoy simply watching toys being naughty. As an adult though, it's mainly nostalgia, Phil Hartman, and the fantastic puppetry that I enjoy about this film. Most other things just don't work for me, sadly. But if you still like this movie, then that's great. All power to you. So, what do you think of Small Soldiers? Let me know in the comment section below. I've been Jamboree, and I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, then feel free to like, subscribe, and share. What am I going to be reviewing for the next episode of Puppet Panic? Well, it's actually going to be the 50th episode. That's a big milestone, so I have to do something special. You know which film. Cheerio, folks.